welcome to the Racers HQ podcast. I'm your host, Matt Murphy, and joining me on the line tonight, we've got our co-host, Pat Mulry. How you doing tonight, Pat?
I'm doing great. How are you, Matt Murphy?
I'm doing well. Our dedicated listener and team member and co-host, Dave Mulvey. How you doing tonight, Dave?
Hey, guys. Thanks for inviting me on.
Yeah. And then we've got a very special guest tonight, Doug Masters, and we're very excited to hear from you. But before we get there, how you doing tonight, Doug?
Doing great. Had a good day.
Good. I like it. All right. Rapid fire, what you drinking? Pat, what you got?
Tonight it is the New Riff Balboa Rye.
New Riff Balboa Rye. I think is this a repeat? I feel like I've heard this one.
If it is, it's from quite a long time ago.
Okay. I bet it's just new. I'm not very good at remembering those things. Dave, what you got a cheese stick? What else?
A little charcuterie, and also finishing off a bottle of Maker's Mark that my brother picked me up in Kentucky. He did the thing where he went to the distillery and actually dipped the wax seal on the Makers. Cool. So I think I'll just refill that one when it's empty. But anyway, drink a little Makers tonight.
Nice. Doug,
and how about you, Matt Murphy?
Oh, me? I was going to ask Doug if he's drinking anything tonight, but that's fine. Good question, Pat. I'm drinking this. Somebody left this bottle. I got another find from the 24 Hour of Lemons. This bottle of J.T. Mellick Distillers Louisiana handcrafted rice whiskey. That's a mouthful.
Yeah, but
I'm sipping on it tonight, and it's nice. It's nice light whiskey, and I've got some rocks with it, and it's pairing well with podcasting. But enough about that. Let's do some quick garage updates, and then we'll get into our interview.
Is Doug drinking anything?
I'm sorry, Doug. Are you drinking anything tonight?
I didn't know it was this kind of show, so unfortunately, I'm just drinking water.
Okay, well.
Feel free to indulge. It is that kind of podcast.
Yeah, you probably got 10 to 15 minutes while we talk crap on our garages if you want to go grab a drink. But no.
And it'll make the remaining 60 to 85 minutes much more tolerable.
For sure. All right. Garage updates. Pat, what you get into this weekend?
So last weekend we finished tearing down the engine from the Lemons race to see if we could discover any more secrets about or any more tales about what happened. Didn't really find much other than the lean condition in cylinder 1. Definitely impacted the piston too. It has damage along the crown and on the side. So I think that definitely goes to the that injector on cylinder 1 was just not participating the way that it should have it. Normally I didn't see that same kind of damage on cylinder 2. So I think the water and the damage that we saw in cylinder 2 was a result of the carnage that was going on in cylinder 1. We found on the rebuild and why it wouldn't, I'd say rebuild, when we put the head back on and then we couldn't get compression in cylinder 6, the two exhaust valves on 6 were bent. Fortunately they didn't see enough damage to break right off the stems, but those two are unrecoverable, and that's why we weren't getting compression on 6. Overall we're lucky probably that happened because something wasn't right there. But those were the only two valves that were bent. We did a test on the dedicated listener, sometime co-host, full-time teammate Eric Strawn suggested a test to where you flip the head upside down, put the spark plugs back in, flip the head upside down, and fill the combustion chamber with gasoline, and see if it leaks. And that'll tell you if the other valves are bent also. And I didn't use gasoline; I used isopropyl alcohol because it was less messy and more at hand, but just as viscous. And the other 5 combustion chambers all held. So I think we're going to just, make sure that head is flat and rebuild it. And, we've got a block ready to go and get it all back together here sooner rather than later.
Not to dwell on this misery, but that looked like a refreshed head. Were those valves, were they bent from the source they were sourced from, or just was that missed in the build, or what?
No, it's not a freshly rebuilt head. It's not an old head, but it's not like it just got redone. I think that what happened is when at 2 a.m. or something like that, when we were retiming the cams on that engine on that series of engines, you've got to be very careful about getting the cams in just right and not having them rotated incorrectly at any point. And I think that's what happened, is that it probably just got put in not quite right for TDC cylinder 1. 6 was off. Somehow it was all off by just enough that because after you get it all on there, you have to hook up the Vanos to air pressure and cycle the Vanos solenoid so that the cams are properly timed. And if you don't have them already on just right, apparently this can happen. So
yeah,
that's our only real explanation, because otherwise you should have 12 valves on that side all bent. So if we have a BMW valve train expert in the listening audience who wants to chime in on how we bent just 2 valves, I would love to hear it. But that's the working theory right now.
The working theory, yeah.
It's so strange because it's not something we've ever we've rebuilt those engines 4 or 5 or 6 times now over the years, and we've never experienced it that way before. So we have lots of firsts that we're learning from.
Yeah, new and exciting lessons. I love it.
That's right.
Yeah,
we'd like it to be a little less new and definitely less exciting going forward.
Yeah. Exciting spreadsheet action. That'd be great.
If this was easy, anybody would do it.
Yeah. That's right.
Dave, how about yourself? Any exciting activities in El Garage?
In the garage? Yeah, actually. Well, I wish it was more exciting, but I pulled a motorcycle out of storage after 10 years, a Honda 919cc. They call it the Hornet over in Europe, and I ran into a snag where I took the fuel pump, the fuel tank apart. By the way, this thing sat for 10 years with gas in it, so everything has to come apart. Yeah, it's rough. It's yeah. So everything's coming apart, but where I'm stuck right now is that the Pat, help me. What's the mat that sucks up the gas? What is that called? The mat. The
fuel filter.
The filter. The fuel. Yeah, the filter.
It's
the screen on the
those. Yeah.
The sock.
Screen on the intake.
Yeah,
the sock on the intake. Yeah. eBay has a plethora of fuel pumps available, but the Honda factory one apparently is the only one that has the right shape of the hose that connects to it. And there's all kinds of architecture inside of that deal that I didn't really think about when I blew it apart. And so trying to find an actual OEM Honda little intake filter on the fuel so that it fits in the right spot. That's where I'm stuck right now. But anyway, I'm looking forward to getting that thing on the road.
Nice.
For sure.
That sounds bitching. I didn't know you were a motorcycle guy.
I haven't been for 10 years.
Awesome. We'll be safe. Yeah, I got a few things done. I've been anxious about the list I've been staring down to get to ST5 this year. And so one item on the list that was one of those like big asks for me, at least, is to change out all the springs, because that's pulling the coilovers out, that's disassembling the coilovers, but going back to these R comps basically, and that's the rate I need to go with to handle all the more grip we're going to get with the Maxxis RC1s, I guess. Yeah, that's what we're running. So yeah, big task, got it done, and then that pretty much sums up all the stuff I've got to do on the suspension and underneath the car. So just need to bleed the brakes, and I'll be able to put it on the ground.
So what's your plan is to run that in ST6 at NASA?
ST5.
I'm sorry, ST5 NASA.
Yeah,
cool.
So it'll be a little heavy, a little down on power, but I figure better than stretching, trying to hit some high power mark and low weight mark, right?
Heavy down on power, but an absolute rock star in the driver's seat.
Well, no, actually, like on point for the class. I'm just saying that for the car itself, we've got to add weight, we got to turn down the power.
No, I understand.
But yeah. Anyway, so that, and then I did the air dam, and this is a zero splitter air dam, and so I've got the whole like 9 Lives Racing mounts and what used to be a splitter underneath the car, right? So a floor, and it's at about a 5-degree angle. But I cut the splitter portion off, and I ran a air dam down about 1.5 inches below that floor, which might be a little much. I think 1 inch might be the right number. I've got some aerodynamics book that talks about it. Has some good studies from like NASCAR and stuff. But anyway, so that's the design I'm working with right now. Flared it out a little bit on the ends to try to catch the tires, and cut out some holes for my. I've got these little fog lights that shine through the air dam. So I had some plexiglass, and so in the past, our former co-host Nate Adler, he built those plexiglass windows for my little fog lights, and I don't know how the hell he did it, because I got that I found my leftover plexiglass, and I tried to cut that stuff and like shape it into a curved headlight cover, and it was impossible. So anyway, good job, Nate. Instead, I ordered this stuff, styrene plastic sheet, and it's the shape I need, and I should be able to just rivet it into the car because it's like the same texture as the ABS I use for the air dam. So those are the boring things on my list. I also added some fresh calipers because my calipers were crusty, and you shouldn't go out on the racetrack with crusty calipers. So just need to get my wife out there to help me bleed the brakes, and or maybe get Roland to come over. Maybe we can bleed the brakes and corner weight the car. Might be fun.
You
could.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to suggest you could reverse bleed the calipers, and then you wouldn't have to have a partner for it.
Yeah, I've not met that, or I haven't reached that pinnacle of motorsports capabilities yet, and I still very much trust traditional bleeding, but I appreciate it. Yeah, I might look into it if I get done.
It's just all you need is a syringe, like a big syringe.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Okay.
Did you change the spec of the caliper, since you're not in a spec class, you're just in a
actually no, I downgraded my calipers. So I had bumped up to the Willwoods, and I was going to take a bigger master cylinder and those types of things, and I never really got the feel I wanted out of those. Mm-hmm. And I was confident. In fact, my fastest lap is on the old stock calipers. Kind of burn through brakes a little bit more, but it's just like a known quantity that I know how to deal with, and it saves me points in this whole ST5 modification points game. So get to run a little bit more horsepower that way.
Is that why you had to cut the splitter down too? Is to save some points? Yeah,
and I talked to Mario about that, and he's done a lot of simulations, and he said he might even have a good article coming out about the no splitter air dam design as well. So hopefully I'm somewhere close to his suggestions. I don't really feel like doing it a fifth time, but
shout out to the Occam's Razor and Mario's episode on the podcast, man. I think that might be my favorite episode that this podcast has ever done.
Really? Okay, cool.
Mario's, it was aerodynamics is such a mystery that having somebody that's actually done some testing and some data is really cool. So
yeah, and he's down to come back on. I mean, if we can come up with a use case, like, I know we don't like to give away too many secrets on the 325 race car, but maybe projects on the Miata or some other car. He's down to come back on and discuss some aero tricks. So we should have him on sometime.
Maybe aero tricks for a Big Bend open road race Mini Cooper.
I like this. That's a brilliant segue. Pat?
Yeah. So I'm curious if our guest Doug is a wrench, or Doug and I have met a few times. We've competed, but I don't know. We're not that well acquainted. Doug, are you a wrench? Are you messing around in the garage, or are you purely just an excellent driver?
Both.
Cool. Well, what have you been working on in your garage? Go ahead. You got any garage updates for the pod?
Yeah. I'm working on the Mini. I went to Track Day at Coda beginning of March. Discovered that the mildly upgraded brakes were not really going to work for that. So
which Mini? You have a
mild
2012,
less upgrade.
I have a 2012 Cooper S.
Cool.
So it had the stock brakes. So I went on, brake hunts and this and that. And about 6 weeks ago, slightly before the Big Bend race, I put on the JCWs. And then kind of in researching, kind of while I was waiting on those parts to come in and things like that, I kind of discovered the GP2 brakes, and what went with those. And got to poking around on eBay and found it turned out they use the same caliper as the 135i BMW. So I got poking around, and somebody had a wrecking yard in California somewhere had a set of 135i calipers. So I made them an unreasonable offer, and they initially refused. And a couple of days later, they're kind of like, "Okay, we'll take it." So I've got those all rebuilt, painted up, ready to go on the car. Hopefully Sunday is the plan. And then this last weekend, put new shocks and struts and bushings and all that garbage on it. This car's got 90,000 miles. So, doing what I can on a car that really all it's ever going to do is to see occasional track days and be my daily driver now.
Man, if I had any concerns about Doug's ability to fit in on this podcast, he leads with BMW parts interchangeability, and bravo,
Right.
sir.
Yeah.
Welcome home. Welcome home, Doug.
Nailed it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, and great segue. I mean, Doug, we're real excited to have you on the show tonight. Like I said before, I'm going to have Dave do most of the interviewing, but yeah, we're excited to hear from you. Dave, you want to take it away? You want to introduce your guest and tell us a little bit about what you guys are up to?
Yeah, sure. So, I've been a long time Lemons racer, and I wanted a little bit of a change of pace a few years ago. And I had on my bucket list to do the Big Bend Open Road Race, which is a time, speed, distance rally. Essentially, there's really three classes of things going on there. Two official and one unofficial. The two official are like the unlimited class, where the cars are going as fast as they can across a total of 118 miles of closed down highway in West Texas between Sanderson and Fort Stockton, Texas. Highway 285 gets shut down 59 miles each way. And so the unlimited class, they are going for the fastest average time possible. And then there are several classes of time, speed, distance rally, which I hope Doug can help me explain that a little bit more simply than I can. And then there's a class that I did enter that class, the time, speed, distance rally, but the real race I was running was just go as fast as possible and have as much fun as possible and finish 30 seconds in error, which is, the time, speed, distance rally thing. So I did that in 2022, had a blast. I've gone back to volunteer a couple of times to sit on the side of the road and make sure that no ranchers come out of their ranch gates on Highway 285 and disrupt the shutdown highway and shut down the race, but and also run radios and the communications and stuff. So I met Doug when in 2022. Again, my rookie year was 2022. I thought I was going to show up and be the only Mini Cooper in a whole, sea, right? A whole sea of Corvettes and Mustangs and American Iron and things, a few Porsches. And then here's another guy with a black Mini Cooper. So, I didn't know Doug at all at the time. We met very briefly and we talked a few times, but can I make a confession? I really brought Doug on to pump him and understand a lot more about the Big Bend open road race and just the open road racing in general, because I clearly didn't understand it. I think I do understand it, but I wasn't any good at it. In 2022, I should take a step back. Every class has a certain miles per hour that they have as a target speed. And so in 118 miles total, again, 59 miles southbound, 59 miles northbound. Let's say you're in the 100-mile-an-hour class, then whatever the amount of time it would take to cross the start-finish line at the end of it, for having averaged 100 miles an hour, would be your target time. And you are measured, and Doug can please help me make this more simple if you'd like to. But your error in plus or minus seconds in the target time is needs to be as low as possible. So going back and looking at some of the records, I was quite impressed to see that Doug has had errors in the thousandths quite a few times. Yes, the thousandths of seconds quite a few times. Doug, have I screwed anything up royally yet?
No, not at all.
Okay, cool.
No, you're capturing everything pretty well.
Good. So it's not, to be clear, it's not closed circuit road racing like we go to Hallett or Road Atlanta or Motorsport Ranch Houston, where it's 2 to 3 miles of 11 of the same turns, and we do it hundreds of times over the course of a weekend in an endurance race or even a sprint race. This is a closed down highway in West Texas that has 59 miles each way. In the morning, they start releasing cars about every minute or so, and they're trying to hit that target speed and crossing the finish line at the southbound end. There is some error that is unknown to the competitors at that point. They've crossed that finish line at some plus or minus error to what their average speed should be. And then lunch is had in Sanderson, and then we all head northbound. And then as you cross the start finish line up near Fort Stockton, that leg is also going to have its own error. Those two errors are combined, and that ends up being your total error. If something bad happens, like happened this past race the other day, April of 2024, there was I think a Corvette that ran off the road trying to pass somebody, which passing doesn't happen very often because they're being released a minute at a time. But somebody ran off the road, and that shut the race down. So in that case, the competitor's error for the first leg stood. So you're incentivized to have the minimum error possible on the southbound leg, so that just in case your northbound leg doesn't go well for your own reasons or others, that you've got that. So you're not really racing against anyone door to door or anything. Passing is rare, but it could happen if somebody's just really slow, etc. There's also a tech speed. Think of that as like, I have only been approved by tech inspection to go this fast. And so, like, for example, I ran in the 100-mile-an-hour class in 2022, and the tech speed there was 124 miles an hour. It's a standing start on both ends, so you've got a bit of a bit of ground to cover already to get up over your average of 100 miles an hour of speed. This. Hopefully, I'm explaining it clearly as mud.
Yeah, I think so.
It's challenging. I think our friend Todd Spickard, who came and volunteered the other day at this past April race, I don't think he knew it was a time, speed, distance rally until we were having margaritas on Friday night. And I was explaining how the classes were built, and he went, "Wait, this isn't just a flat out race." And my bad for not explaining that to him. And there is the unlimited class that is trying to go as fast as possible. Most of the competitors are going for some speed class, and it goes from, I think, 165 miles an hour down to about 100 in 5-mile increments. Is that right, Doug?
Yeah, that's correct. And the unlimited, there will be 150 to 160 cars show up, and there's only 3 or 4 that are running unlimited. And everybody else is in a timed class. And yeah, it goes from 100 to like 160 or 165 at 5-mile increments, like you said. There used to be 85, 90, 95 classes. They've kind of done away with those because the speed limit on the road is 75 for crying out loud. So, trying to go 85 is nothing. So they took those classes out to kind of mash things together. But so most of us are running time, speed, distance.
Very cool. Can we get an idea of let's say on the 100-mile-an-hour one, what's your cruising speed? Is it 110? Like, what's your target there?
Well, I shouldn't answer this. I should let Doug answer this because, again, half the reason I invited him on this podcast was to pump him for these details because he's obviously a seasoned competitor and I'm not. Spoiler alert: I finished 30 seconds fast in my class.
Well, then, Doug, what's your hot take then, Doug? What's the cruising speed for a 100-mile-an-hour class?
So for me, you've got different people with different strategies. Me, what I'm going to do is say I'm in a 100-mile-an-hour class. I'm going to run up to 105, 107 off the line, and I'm going to cruise there. And I've got a GPS that's giving me an average speed. And as it starts creeping into that 100, I start slowing down and ease down into it. Once I get to 100, I luckily in the Mini, I can set the cruise control pretty much anywhere I want as best I can tell. And so at that point, I would set the cruise control on 100 and sit there and watch that GPS, which is showing me average speed in tenths of a mile an hour. And I'm watching that and I'm staying on 100. I'm staying on 100. I'm staying on 100. And then adjusting. And then about the last 15 miles or so, I switched to time because GPS is just not going to be accurate enough to report a cruise speed. I mean, they're as Dave said, they're measuring speed and time in the thousandths. And it really is. It's really all about time. If you get your time right, the speed will come. You can run a perfect time. You can run a 100.000, but you could still be, 5 hundredths off or something like that. Which in some of the classes, 500s off is, to run a 0.05 is a good time, but in some of the classes, that's not good enough.
That's fascinating.
So, Doug, I have to ask a couple of questions about methodology there. You talked about GPS not being accurate enough. And by the way, plug for the Racers HQ Discord. I just posted a picture of my dashboard. Well, not during the race, but the GPS that I'm using. The seasoned racers in the Big Bend Open Road Race, recommend a certain, older Garmin GPS that can do that average speed and do it in tenths and things like that. Doug, what I found as a newbie going into this is that in my R53 Mini Cooper, a 2005 S, I found that, there's already two speedometers in that car. There's the digital one that's on near the tack above the steering wheel. And then there's the big Flava Flav clock speedometer, which I love. But those two never agreed. And then the scan gauge, which I from a little op4 intel that I did in 2022, peeking into your car, because I thought, well, there's another Black Mini Cooper. I better just see exactly what he's running as far as, what all kind of goodies does he have. I noticed you run a scan gauge as well, and that speed didn't agree with the other two. Also, the GPS speed in the Garmin did not agree with either of the two smartphones that I had running, one with the Big Bend Open Road Race Course Note app, which I know is not supposed to be used for time and official scoring, but I just wanted it as another data point. And then I had another, Waze going or something like that. So, Doug, help us wrap our brain around why none of those miles per hour in speed agreed with each other.
Well, when it comes to what's physically in the car, you've got your wheel speed and your diameters and things like that are just not right. And I know on my car, the digital speed that shows on the tack and what shows on the speedometer are off. And Mini Cooper very specifically has the speedometer read about 2 to 3 miles an hour fast. Mm-hmm. It's built in. That's intentional. You can go in and code it out. In which case the The digital on the TAC in the R56 will then be more accurate. It takes that intentional error out of it, and it's more accurate. But just because of tire inflation and things like that, and it's not calibrated at 100 miles an hour. So you get those differences. As far as why GPS is off, I can't 100% say, but I'm going to say that it's all down to the fact that it's only good to 3 meters, which is about 10 feet. So it's only so accurate. Plus the update time. That's the thing about the GPS or whatnot. It's showing you what happened half a second or a second ago. It's not showing you right now. Now, what I started running is I run a GPS speedometer from a company called Latinx. And I don't know if it's right or not, but it's it'll update about every 0.2 seconds, which gives me a little better idea of kind of what's going on. So I just have to kind of trust those two. But as I said, GPS is only going to get you in the ballpark at best. Have I won a trophy with the GPS? Yes, I have. It was sheer luck. To get in the money, you've got to be on time. It's all about time. And which is why I just cruise with the GPS, and then when I start getting down towards the end of the course, that's when I switch over to time and I start watching. I know I'm supposed to be at this particular road sign at this particular time. And I've got the notes in the car and I'm looking at that, and I've got my stopwatch, and I'm making a mark and I'm saying, okay, I'm a tenth of a second fast, or I'm a second fast, or whatever it is. And then knowing what 1 mile an hour up or down does to my speed, knowing what that is, then I can just adjust, and kind of go from there.
You make it sound so easy.
It's none of it's hard. It's just a lot of little things you got to put together, and you got to be doing math going down the road at 120 miles an hour, and in your head, you're saying, okay, I got to adjust this much for this long and make it happen. Now, did I know I was running the 2 times I ran a 00, which a 00 anything out there is just stellar. So, did I know I was that close? No, I knew I ran a really good race, but I didn't know it was that good. Kind of I've gone back and done the math on it, and just to put things kind of in perspective, as you said, it's across 119 miles. When I ran the 003 last October, I did the math on that, and I was 6 inches early. So I compare that to people say, you've got a howitzer and you're trying to hit something 118 miles away. You're trying to hit a coffee can 118 miles away, and you missed it by 6 inches.
That's insane. I saw that Pat had a question. I do want to mention one thing. Doug is already ingratiating himself with the hosts of the Racers HQ podcast by reminding everyone that the math really is the most fun about racing. That's a mantra. So I'm not even sure if it's a sarcastic mantra that we have, but the math, in this case, the math really is the racing. And then one more point, and then we'll go to Pat for his question. Looking at Doug's scores, I didn't actually do put a calculator to it, but from 2018 to 2023, Doug ran 9 races, because they do this twice a year now. After COVID, they do October and April. The total error, the absolute value of error, so not doing a plus minus thing, but the total absolute value of all the error that Doug has had, less than 2 seconds over 9 times 100, and so well over 1,000 miles, less than 2 seconds of error. It's incredible.
My mind is blown.
Blown. Pat, what was your question?
I was just wondering where you get the cesium for the atomic clock that you must be running in the car. Because I'm guessing you can't be more than, a nanosecond out on your timing in the car at this point.
Yeah, but is it like a cool rally computer or something, or is it just like a Casio watch? Like, what's the technique there?
No, I literally use an old Garmin GPS 3 or 3 Plus, which you pick up on eBay for like $30-$35. because they over 100 miles an hour, they will still show you your average to a tenth. So I use that. I use a like $20 Robic stopwatch from Amazon, and then recently started using the Latinx GPS speedometer just so I kind of have an idea how fast I'm really actually going. So I am very low tech, which I'm very proud of. There are people out here with computers that are synced up to GPS that are doing things. And reportedly, I don't know, I've never asked the guy specifically, but he's a former Raytheon employee doing like missile guidance system stuff. The guy's just a beast. Allegedly, his computer will take over control of the throttle in the last mile to get him on time. He's no longer driving the car, essentially, and that's fine. You know what? It's within the rules, but
it's like the B-52 bomb site thing.
And the rumor
this is how the robot apocalypse starts.
Exactly. The rumor is, something like that doesn't stay quiet in the paddock very long, right? The rumor is that I heard in 2022. First of all, I saw it. The guy had like 9 of these GPS receivers. Okay, all networked in. I don't know if they're CAN bus or whatever in to whatever he had going on. But my understanding, I was told, and maybe a wives' tale, who knows, was that he was using GPSs that you literally have to register with the government that you are using. They're available. You can buy them, but you literally have to fill out a form and say, my name is Dave Mulvey, and I'm buying this GPS, and I've bought 9 of them. And you have to fill that form out and send it in before they'll sell you those things.
You're not eligible for export. You can't take them with you when you go overseas.
Yeah,
right.
I need 5 silencers and 3 GPS units, please. Yeah,
the silencers are no problem.
Doug, I'm still confused. Doug, I'm still confused though. Okay, so do you start at like 9:01 and that's your start time, so you know that at whatever the number is, 10:51, you're supposed to be at the finish line, or are you that good with a stopwatch? Because I can't fumble around and use a stopwatch, within a 3-second accuracy, much less, 0.003.
Yeah, I mean, they've got to start. They basically have a start Christmas tree that counts down, and you try and do the best to hit your stopwatch when at the exact same moment that little light turns green, and obviously down to a thousandth of a second. It's you got to do that, and you know how long it's supposed to take you to get there.
Yeah.
And you work it all back, and you kind of go backwards. And go from there. So I'm keeping some secrets. I'm not sure. I'm not telling here, obviously. So it is a challenge, and there's I by no means figured this out on my own. The biggest key I tell anybody who's new at this is when somebody who's better at this than you is talking, shut up and listen. Because there are people out there that like to brag about how good they are. Shut up and listen. And you take a little bit from this guy and that guy and this pair, and you take a little bit and you mix it all together and you make it your own, something that works for you. I'm kind of like a top-notch barbecue pit boss. Good ones will tell you everything about what they're doing. And they'll say, hey, I use this much salt, this much pepper, this much heat, and then they'll pat you on the back and tell you good luck, and go for it. So and just because you have all the pieces of the puzzle doesn't mean you're going to make Snow's barbecue. So there's an example.
I like it.
Yeah, it's challenging. It really is. And
can we hear a little bit more about the path then? Can we hear, like, how did you get here then? Because I am curious about that. Like have you always been doing this, or were you doing some other kind of rally first, or what got you from there to here?
I had heard about the Big Bend Open Road Race many, many, many years ago. In about 2013, I had a souped up Mazda Speed 3, and I said, what the hell, let's go do this. So I went out there and did it, and And so, first year I came in last, but I was fast. I came in last because I think I was in 105 class and around 106, something like that. So I was last. But my team was like, hey, you weren't slow. And then, just as time went by, just befriended people and picked things up, picked tips up. So, and got better and saw what other people were using. First time I went out there, I don't remember what I had. I think I had an app on my phone that obviously didn't work all that great. And then the second year I went out, I had a Garmin. And then I was using just a standard, regular old kitchen timer, which is only showing me seconds. But, I could kind of tell, I could say, okay, well, the timer beeped just a little bit after the finish line. Okay, all right. Or a little bit before. And then, then got into stopwatches and course notes and going out, putting up my own flags in certain areas so that I knew my countdowns and things like that. So I had points on the course that I felt pretty accurate about.
I felt like I had seen something I shouldn't have seen at this past race where I was course working, and I saw what Doug's markers look like, and I felt like I had just gotten a piece of inside information because he happened to pull one up right at the place that I was parked at doing radio comms. So I saw that. I won't give it away, but I thought, I've seen those. Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody on my team knows where they are. The people on my team, I tell them, hey, the rainbow flags are mine, and this is where they are.
Talk about teams, Chris.
So I share that.
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah. That's awesome that you're on a team that does this. So yeah.
Yeah. So there's several teams, and they're in the race. There is a team challenge, and they take the top 5 finishers, who are members of that team, and they sum up the variance on that, and whoever's closest is the top team. I'm on Team Rod Benders, who we always place mid pack or pretty well. We've been pretty successful, but we are by far the most fun team out there. We have fun. We get together. We laugh. We joke. We go eat. We go hang out at a bar. We do whatever, and we don't take ourselves too seriously. Everybody's there to have fun, and I have 4 rules to open road racing: don't hurt me, don't hurt the car, don't be last, and have fun. And you can apply those to anything. You can apply those to lemons or whatever you're doing. They still apply. Is just go have a good time.
So Doug, let's talk about the cars that you've raced for a second. You mentioned that you'd raced a Mazda Speed 3. Quick inside joke question: you don't own a Porsche, do you?
No.
Because today in our little group chat, we Matt Murphy came up with a great advertising campaign for Mazda, and that is that every weekend more Porsche owners race Mazdas than any other brand, and I thought that was pretty funny. Anyway, sorry. So
Thanks for the shout out,
there. But you have raced
and for getting Matt Murphy blacklisted from ever buying a Porsche.
Did I say Matt Murphy said that? It was rolling for sure.
I think the Mazda Speed 3 was known. Somebody in magazine referred to it as the poor man's M3.
Mm-hmm. It's a cool car. I've driven one. It's very cool.
Yeah, I loved it. Mine was a lease, so I stocked it back out and turned it in, and had a life-changing event a couple of months later that would have put me in a position where I could have bought it. And I wish I still had it, but and I wouldn't buy one now because I know how I treated mine. So, so I wouldn't buy a used one.
Right.
Well, speaking of Roland, we should mention that really almost any kind of car can enter this. I didn't get a chance to snap a picture, but there was a oh man, what does he drive? Which Porsche does Roland drive?
The Cayenne or Cheyenne or
Cayenne. Thank you, Cayenne. Cayenne. Yeah. So there was a Cayenne entered. There was a diesel dually pickup that races every year. There's a Ford Lightning that races every year. Really, what matters is that the car's in good condition, reliable. I raced my 2005 R53 Cooper S, and what I liked about it was I was able to modulate the speed, because it's got a supercharger on it. So when I let off the gas, it slowed down a lot, and I thought that would really help me get an accurate time. And
I want to queue up some topics. I want to hear about Doug's car history, but then after that, I'm super curious about like safety classing, right? Like, it's cool that you can use any kind of vehicle, but like, am I allowed to take my Expedition? And and what does the safety need to look like, at the 165 plus, level? But
Roger, yeah,
but maybe not.
Yeah. Let's get into Doug's. Doug, go through some of the cars you've raced, and there's one in particular that I'm dying to know about because I went back through and looked at the history.
Yeah. So I have ran 6 different cars in the 14 races. So the very first car was a Mazda Speed 3. I traded that in, or turned that in. It was a lease. I turned it in. And so then I was left to run my F-150.
Hold on one second. You raced a leased vehicle while it was on its lease? Is that what I just heard? That's brilliant.
Yeah. Is there a statute of limitations? Do you still using the same leasing company?
No. And it was also quite modified. So it if it bolted on or plugged in, that Mazda had it. And then I spent a weekend stocking it out and gave it back to them. And whoever bought it, they needed a clutch in about 6 months. So
love it.
But hey, at stock power levels, the clutch held just fine. So anyway, so I went from the Mazda to the F-150, and then after the F-150, I presume this is probably where Dave's going. I had a retired Busch Series stock car.
Nice.
That I ran 2 races in, and that car was a hoot. I sold it. I feel like I have unfinished business, but it's gone. But that car was just bonkers. It was ridiculous. It was the raggediest piece of crap. Just rattle trap going down the road. And it's, I describe, a Ferrari as this fine precision scalpel, and a stock car is a sledgehammer. And that it's just brute, ugly force. But it was fun. I raced one race. Due to weather and an accident, it turned into a one-way race. I was running the 130 average class, and I was doing great 3 miles out. Going southbound, I was 3 miles out, doing great. But it gets twisty. And my notes were not secured real well. So I'm trying to drive this very ill-handling car. I mean, you got rubber that's 14 inches wide, and it is catching every single groove in the road and yanking you and pulling you around. It is just brutal. So I'm in the twisties at 130 miles an hour, trying to drive with one hand, hold the notes with the other hand, hold them still, and do the math. So I ended up losing a fair amount of time, and so that's the car I did not podium in. So then the second time I ran it, it unfortunately broke. That's the only time I broke down and I was riding the curb. The release bearing was the wrong one, and I blame a mechanic in Houston for that, because when we changed clutches, I said, do we need to change anything else to accommodate for this bigger clutch? No, it's fine. No, it wasn't fine. So at 145 miles an hour, it finally chewed up the release bearing, and I was riding the curb. So after that, I went back to the F-150 and ran that for a couple of years, and brought out my Datsun 240Z. It's a 72 240Z. Ran that in some low classes, and I think I ran it twice, and then the Mini came into my life, and I ran the Mini for the last 4 races of my career. I am now retired as a driver. I've met my goals. And sorry, I'm going to take a second here and toot my own horn, talking about, my credentials and what Dave was talking about. I ran 14 races. This is all Big Bend. I ran 14 races. I had 10 podiums. I had 8 podiums in different classes, ranging from 90 to 125. I have 8 podiums in a row, 7 of which are first place. 5 of those are in a row. I have 3 second place. I have 2 most accurate time of the event. I beat everybody in every class. 6 different cars, and I am the 2024 driver of the year.
Boom.
Boom.
By the way, the Verstappen of the BBORR.
But I did not know any of that stuff when I asked Doug to come on the podcast. He's one of the guys, one of the very few guys that I know outside of the ham radio guys that volunteer at the event. And I met Doug because he had the Black Mini Cooper, and I posted again, a plug for the Racers HQ Discord. I posted a picture of a couple of helmets. So not only did Doug and I happen to show up at the same race with the same, make and color of car, he was rocking an Evel Knievel helmet, and I was rocking a Super Dave Osborne helmet, and that was pretty awesome.
And we did not know that until race morning. But yeah, he was talking about, he was going to be Black Cooper. I get out there, and a friend of mine, he was one of the rookie instructors, and he tells me, well, there's another Black Mini here. And I'm like, Jesus. Okay. I'm the Black Mini with the Union Jack mirror covers.
Well, and I was the Black. I'll tell another quick couple of stories from my perspective. Again, this is my rookie year, right? And I'm used to Lemons, where number one, we do silly really well. And if you're not being silly, you're not even trying. And so, hence a little bit of the Super Dave Osborne, putting stickers on my car. I thought race cars had stickers, so I put a few stickers on legitimately people that sponsored the car. And also, not to get into this story too deeply, but I was racing this car. I was preparing for this in 2015 for the Big Bend Open Road Race. And on a sort of a bombing run that I was doing, I hit a deer. And that weekend, or that week rather, life started happening in other ways. So I parked that Mini for about, 7 years. Life was happening. I was already engaged. I was getting married that summer. I got a new job. My dad was ill. Lots of things happening. And so I put the Mini aside. And so I barely fixed it. There's a picture that I've got from the Big Bend Open Road Race of 22 where the front bumper cover is in the bathtub of my hotel room, which is a very Lemons thing to do, but not a very Big Bend Open Road Race thing to do. Most of the cars are showroom stock. Most of the people in the time class are showroom stock kind of cars, maybe with tasteful mods, but my car was anything but tasteful. So I really did feel like the clown car, right? Here's the clown Mini Cooper with the Super Dave Osborne helmet, right? But I have to know, I'm dying to know if Doug remembers this. I'm sure he does. But I kind of had a lot of nervous energy. It's like, so grid for that race is dark 30. It's like 5 or 6 a.m., right, Doug, at the Rooney Park?
Yeah, it's 5:30. Yeah.
So I'm just walking around. I haven't even met Doug yet. I just see another Black Mini Cooper. I've had one person tell me that guy's name is Doug. And so I introduced myself and I said to Doug, hey, Doug, did you get your Mini Cooper contingency check yet? And Doug goes, huh? And now I don't know if he knew I was jacking around with him or not. But after I walked away, I kind of felt guilty. But I was like, by the way, Doug, I've never earned a contingency check in my life for any kind of racing ever. So, but I thought it would be a funny joke. And you kind of went, huh? You kind of cocked your head to one side and no, I don't know anything about that. And I was like, oh yeah, I'll send you information next year. And then I walked away. And it was kind of an a-hole thing to do, but it was, again, nervous energy. I thought I was being funny. I don't even know if Doug remembers that, but it made me laugh and also feel a little guilty.
There you go.
I do vaguely remember that. And then I came home and I started Googling, okay, how do I get this contingency money? I'm like, oh, I'm not one.
Right.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the spit. I'm sorry for the spit take, but that's actually what I was hoping you would do. Anyway, that's funny. Well, but I didn't know
it's all good.
Yeah. I didn't know I was provoking an absolute frickin' legend, is what I'm saying. I didn't know any of that until I started researching for the podcast and kind of seeing how many races you'd done. So,
Doug, you inspired a question, and now I'm very excited about this because I drive basically an F-150, an Expedition. So, like, what are the basic, like, you just need to have good maintenance and probably decent highway tires. Like, what kind of tires are we running on an F-150, and how does that perform? Because, man, you've got me all inspired now. I want to take my my tow rig down to the open road race.
You want to take your Mini to the road
And
race?
you can.
Sorry, go ahead.
You can absolutely bring your expedition on there. Like Dave said, there's a guy in a guy and his daughter, really super great guy, Bobby Seagal. He and his daughter run the 115 class in like a 2000 F350 dually. So obviously there's classes, every 5 miles an hour, and then there's divisions. The touring division and the grand sport division and the sport division and things like that. So when you get into the divisions, your tech speed picks up and you need more safety gear. But in the 100, 105, 110 class, you can run with the seatbelt. As far as safety gear goes, you need a helmet and a fire extinguisher and speed rated appropriate tires. And
pretty new. I think
that's pretty
within like 3 years age.
Okay.
4 years. They got to be within 4 years old. Yes. And outside of that, clothing wise, like a fire suit is recommended but not required. You can wear jeans and a long sleeve cotton shirt. Some kind of fully enclosed shoes like work boots or something like that. And then gloves that have whatever that are they're fully sealed glove. Like I've seen people wearing just leather work gloves. As long as they're sealed and they don't have had people show up with golf gloves. They're like, no, you can't use golf gloves. And then you stepping up in the next division. Well, now you got to have a harness. Race suit's still optional. But now you have to have a harness, and then just the faster you want to go, the more safety gear you got to have. There comes a point where you've got to have a roll cage or a roll bar or whatnot.
Yeah, if I could speak to that, because I one of the things preparing for this, I've read a lot of very well designed rule books, and really one in particular that's just exquisitely designed for safety. And I thought I knew how to read a rule book, but reading the rule book, they kept talking about a purpose-built race car, and I didn't learn until I went through qualifying that. And I asked the check ride guy who was with me. I said, "Okay, answer me a question," because I was really torn. I thought that I wanted at least a 5-point harness in my Mini, but I definitely, and I was prepared to build a roll cage. In fact, Pat, Dagger Dies, one of the biggest projects that I had planned for Dagger Dies when we split the tubing bender was to cage that Mini. And I really thought that was going to be necessary, because if you run a harness, you're going to need a roll bar at least, and you might as well do a roll cage. And now you're talking about some pretty extensive modifications. But the term, if anybody goes and reads the Big Ben Open Road Race rulebook, the term purpose-built race car, I found out later, really means just a tube chassis race car, like his 07 Busch Series NASCAR. If you're running a production-based vehicle, that's not what they consider a purpose-built race car. Even if it has a full cage, you're running 5 points, you've got Kirky seat, that kind of thing, you're still racing essentially a production car.
Gotcha. All right. Very cool.
Yeah, but there's Miatas, there's Civics, there's Mini Coopers. There's a friend of mine. He'll be between race cars. He has literally run rental cars.
Nice. Yeah. No, I mean that's
just go over to Hertz, pick something up. He'll pick it up a couple of weeks before the race and check everything out, make sure the car's sound and tires are good and everything's going to pass inspection, and then go out there and race the car.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've rented a Volkswagen for autocross before. I mean, it happens. Yeah. And I got to give a big shout out to one of our new listeners, Mark. He was reading. I told him about this earlier today that we're going to be doing this interview, and he's my coworker, and I look over and he's reading the rule book later today. So, Mark is stoked about it.
Good,
By the way,
and come
shout
on
out.
out. I mean,
I'm sorry, Doug. Yeah.
go ahead, Dave. Go
Well,
ahead,
I was
Dave.
going to say shout out to Levi in Fort Stockton, also hopefully a new listener. He was sitting at the table to the right of me when I was asking Doug if he'd be on the podcast, and his ears perked up and said, "Podcast? What
Yeah.
podcast
Oh, yeah,
is that?
yeah.
I'd like to subscribe." And I watched him like, share, and subscribe in the in the person, in the flesh. So hi, Levi. Doug, could you
Nice.
talk for a minute? I can give my impressions, but I'd like to hear yours about the difference between, you were telling us that you were doing some event at CODA. Were you doing a HPDE at CODA the other day, or
Yeah.
have you done some
Yeah,
competitive
it was
stuff?
it was just an Edge Addicts track day.
Okay.
Which is I hadn't been out there in forever, so it was fun to go do,
Mhm.
and I look forward to getting back this fall. When the weather's cool. I think they've got one October that I'm probably going to go hit and try out those new GP2 brakes.
Cool.
Nice.
So what give your impressions of the sensation difference, because I think guys like Pat and Matt and a lot of our listeners who mostly have experience with closed circuit, 10 to 12 turn road racing. Talk about the differences in the speed sensations and car control and things like that.
Well, it's different. You'll be going. Let's take the last race I did in the stock car was in 145 class. I was cruising 156 for like 40 miles. Except for with the exception of a couple of turns and this, I'm cruising 156. Now I talk about ill handling and thing just all over the road. And I took off from the southbound. I hadn't been in the car in a year. And we take off and the thing's just darting all over the road and moving and scooting and all that. And I'm just like, nope. I'm getting this to Sanderson. I'm parking it. I ain't driving this sumbitch back. Nope. And then I settled in and I refer to it as don't fight the donkey. Let the car do what the car wants to do, and then coax it back to something you can both live with. And then I settled in, and I'm just cruising along and, whatever. I'm, 156 miles an hour down a public road. And that's the thing, it's a closed public road. You got to watch it. We've had people hit buzzards. The F-350 ran over a couple of badgers. I dodged, I think it was my second year. There was a Mustang Mach 1 in front of me who grenaded a transmission. I'm dodging pieces of bell housing at 125 miles an hour going down the road. There's all these things. They've put for the 18 wheelers and things like that. They put the rumble dots in the road. And quite honestly, that allegedly, I don't know that to be true, but allegedly what has sent, I know it helped send one Corvette into a full 360 who managed to get it all gathered up and keep going. And then the guy that crashed this year, those rumble strips upset the car. And you lose some traction in the rear end and it gets away from you. And it's I kind of talked about a little bit that it seems like maybe the rules are a little lax in the 110, but and the safety gear required, but it is still a safe event, so to speak. There is no such thing as a safe motorsport event. People crash, people die doing this. I lost a dear friend a few years ago who died from injuries he sustained in a race in Nebraska. So people die doing this. So maybe just because your class doesn't require a roll bar or a roll cage or a fire suit or whatnot, just because it's not required doesn't mean you probably shouldn't do it. So it's but that's a big thing. They certainly push things and being as safe as you reasonably can. but not, not make it just ridiculously and prohibitively hard to do. But the crowd, the people out there are so helpful. I talk about teams, and there's a team rivalry, but it's real lighthearted. And people help. You get down there to tech inspection, you don't have your arm restraints. Ask, somebody will loan you a set, or a donut, a neck donut, or whatever, or or if you're missing something, nobody's got anything, they'll point you over to Bob Bartley, who can order you anything there and have it overnighted. So it's everybody helps kind of everybody. You hear this in the big motorsports, that hey, little team blew an engine, and okay, big team loans them an engine so they can make the race. So it's little things like that. The community, that's with the people and the community of the towns. We support them and they support us. This is charity stuff, especially down to Sanderson. Sanderson's a little town of about 850 people. And we do a lot to help support their school and their Head Start program, and make donations and things like that, just to help the community, and the community supports us, and we appreciate that so much, because we come into their town for a week, and we're hogging up the restaurants, and we're clogging up the traffic in the roads, and things like that, and so we greatly appreciate the communities.
That's awesome.
I want to add to that and talk about the things. I want to add to that and talk about the things that I love about this event. It is very different than Lemons. It's kind of Texas centric in its approach to things. Personal responsibility is absolutely expected and not babied, which was a big difference in Lemons. For example, during the rookie meeting, they said, okay, can anyone tell us what's the safe way to signal to, or what's the correct way to signal to the car behind you that you are ready for them to make a safe pass? And boy, I thought all my track experience and all my DE events, I raised my hand and I said, oh, you stick your hand out the window and you point them by. And they said, your window is required to be up. Wrong answer. And I thought, okay, let me shut up and listen. And turns out the correct answer is, we're not going to dictate that for you. Your responsibility is to talk to the person during grid or before, the day before. Who are you gridded next to? And you have to work that out ahead of time amongst yourselves. We're not going to tell you the proper way to signal that you're ready for someone to make a pass. That is your responsibility. I fell in love at that moment, just with that approach. But that is not to say that everything's not absolutely safety conscious, because, when you're in the grid getting ready to, you're 5-6 cars away, they're checking your belts, they're checking your stickers, they're doing everything that Dale Strimple does before you pull onto a Lemons course. They're doing it there, and they're there to help you. Another awesome thing about the Big Bend race, and I'm going to be quick because I know don't we have an OKC Mavericks game that looks like both of you are kind of keeping an eye on? Love it.
No,
I knew it.
No.
Yeah. No, of course not. I wouldn't blame you if you were. But no, Doug, I'd love to hear if you've had this experience or not. But one of the coolest things about this deal is the people in town. You feel like you're in Italy in the 50s, the way the citizens of that town treat the racers. I was at a Stripes convenience store, and I bought a little black Mini Cooper in Sanderson. And I had my Mini parked out front near the door with the number on it and everything. And the cashier goes, oh, this is really cool. Like this little model you're buying. And so, yeah, cool. I'm buying it. I'm buying it because it matches my car out there. And she goes, oh, are you a racer? Now, 90% of the people that have been through that deal were racers, right? Like 90% of the people that day. But she said, are you a racer? And by the way, this was 100% genuine. She was not mocking me. She goes, I said, yeah, well, this is my first year and that kind of thing. She goes, would I have heard of you? And I said, no. No, absolutely not. And she goes, you know what? Maybe someday. And I was like, dude, my heart just melted. Like, okay, I know everybody in Lemons has had this experience where you tell your friends, hey, I'm going to go do this race. And hey, Ma, come out to this race. And, hey, friend, watch my YouTube stream.
Wow.
And you get a big fat goose egg on the number of people that give any kind of crap. But because that community is, I mean, listen, let's face it, the tourism that those two events a year bring is incredible. One of the things that I was interested to learn during this whole process was the Texas Department of Transportation, the state troopers, hate this event. They hate that they're shutting down a major traffic thoroughfare, that there's all this, crazy, air quotes, unsafe, activity on their highways. If it was up to the Texas DPS, this event wouldn't exist. But the sheriff's departments of Terrell County and Pecos County, Sanderson and Fort Stockton, respectively, they support it, right? And they know what it means to the crew, to the local communities. But I say all that to say this: I think one of the most special things about this race is that it won't last forever. Like, I don't know, it may last another 20 years, but it's not going to last forever. Like, just like all of the best things in the world, it's going to go away because of liability rules and, et cetera, et cetera. So whether that happens tomorrow or in 20 or 30 years, I don't know. But it's one of the reasons I want to take part in it in some way, just about every year. So
yeah, I mean, even the Mila Miglia went away because it became too unsafe, and that's in Italy, for God's sake.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Doug, have you ever had a cool experience with the people in town like that?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's kind of all the time. Oh, are you here for the race? Oh yeah, that's great. That's great. That's wonderful. Glad to have you. The restaurants and things. I've been told that the race brings in about $1 million in revenue.
Nice.
Out there. It's I mean, it's a big deal. And Dave he posted a picture of the parade. I mean, we have a little car show on Fridays. We races on Saturday. We have a little car show on Fridays and a parade through town where, we're throwing candy and trinkets and things out to the kids. And it's the whole town shows up for it. It's amazingly cool. And he said that we have 2 races a year now in Texas. And there's 2 races in Nevada. There's one in May, one in October, and then Nebraska has one in August. So there are a total of 5 races a year. If you want to come out, you don't, like I said, you don't have to have some wild, crazy, cool race car. You can come out there in a 240Z that'll barely run 110 miles an hour and whoop up on them. As long as you can run the class you're trying to run, you can whoop up on them. It's a lot of fun and camaraderie. And if you want to come out as a racer, then absolutely. All the websites, Big Bend Open Road Race is bborr.com. The Nevada races is sscc.us. And I forget the Nebraska one. I think it's SORC race something. It's called the Sand Hills Open Road Challenge. That's where you can see all the rules and when you can enter and do your things. And if you just dig motorsports, we can always use course workers. There's nowhere to spectate on this. This is a closed road, so people go, how do I come watch? And you be a course worker and you sit on the side of the road for like 10 hours. But you're there, you're helpful. If something goes wrong, you've got a radio, you call it in, and they get you help if you need help and things like that. So we need course workers just as much as we need racers. Which is what, now that I've retired and my dad is retired from racing, we're going back and we're going to participate as course workers and to keep the event safe and have fun and cheer our friends on and all that. It's a lot of fun. It's just, and there are personalities there that are just wonderful, wonderful people. Absolutely, some of the best people I know, and best friends I have come from racing that I've met out there. So it's something I'm very passionate about. And in April, I'm sitting there at the end of the banquet, and I have my driver of the year poster and my second place trophy that I got with my dad. And
yeah, talk about that for a second.
Was,
you and your dad competed this year together, right?
Yeah. We did in April because Dad's been trying to get a trophy on his own as a solo driver, and my dad's 83 years old, driving a 2007 Dodge Magnum, and a V6 Magnum. Not even the cool RT or any of that. No, it's an SXT Dodge Magnum, and he runs 110, and just trying to get all the electronics and this and that going. He struggled with, but he was always a good, solid mid-pack finisher. So, I said that once I've met my goals, which is to get a trophy in every class from 125 and down, which I did, met that goal last October. And I said, okay, well, then I'm going to navigate for you in April. And that's exactly what we did. And that's what we're going to go get you a trophy. So we went out and I navigated for him, which hats off to the navigators that listen. This are people who navigate. Not that I didn't respect you before, but I have a whole new level of respect. What you do is so stinking hard. It's easy to tell me to tell my foot what to do. It's hard as hell to tell my dad's foot what to do. But we pulled it off. We ran in the 110 class, which is arguably the toughest class to win because that is the last class you can run a seatbelt in. So you got people that get there and they stay there and they get good at it. So for us to come in second with a .035 time variance was just and obviously to do it my dad, that's just freaking amazing. And he did such a great job. He tells people it was me, and I'm like, no man, I just told you what to do and you did it. I've got the GPS speedometer in front of me and I'm telling him, okay, give me 111 miles an hour. Boom, I got 111 miles an hour. And I'm like, just hold it, keep it. Okay, boom, he would keep it. He did such an amazing job, and I'm so stinking proud of him.
That's awesome.
But yeah. So that's it. I'm done, and I think he's done. I'm not. He says he's done, but he may change his mind. So, and if he wants to go out there and go, I'll wave at him as he drives by.
That's awesome.
Well, Doug, I can't thank you enough for agreeing to come on the podcast, and I've learned more than I expected to, and glad that we got a chance to do this. And congratulations on all the success in the BBORR.
Thank you. I appreciate being invited on, and obviously, I'm still passionate about this. It's just time to go do other things in life and go travel and see other things and go back to scuba diving. God, I miss scuba diving, but I can't afford diving and car racing. So,
Pat Mulry, get on Pat Mulry's scuba diving podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The Racers HQ podcast for scuba diving.
Racers HQ / scuba.
Yeah. Right after we do the food podcast.
All right. Cool.
Yeah. I like it. Well, so I think you did a good job of shouting out the other events. It's cool to see that there's so many other communities doing this as well. Real quick question: do you have a get hype song when you're driving out there to South Texas? Is there a song you play on the radio to get ready for all this?
No, there's really not.
Okay.
I just have the I have a whole ton of music on my phone, and I'm just letting it go through, and whatever it's on is on. So no, I don't. Not really.
Very good.
And I know people do, but I don't.
Okay, no get hype song. Just roll with it. I like it. Well, thank you again so much for coming on the show. Dave, do you have any shout outs before we wrap this thing up?
No, man. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, it was awesome. I think a really cool story to tell, and we want to hear more about these efforts as Dave continues to race, and Doug, as you do some corner working. I think that's always a lot of fun too. Pat, any thoughts to wrap this up?
No, I think it's fascinating. This is a corner of the racing world that's really interesting that we don't have otherwise really any exposure to. So I'm glad we got to get it on the pod.
Yeah.
So Doug, thanks for bringing it to us. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I think it's so cool that it all comes back to community, right? Like,
Yep.
This is what we just hear time and time again. Like, you just got to find your people and have a good time, and I think that's what we're doing. So it's cool that motorsports can bring us together in that. Yeah, well, check out racershq.com. Like and subscribe, rate and review. Go buy some swag, go buy some T-shirts or something. Yeah, it'll be rad. You can check us out on the on Threads, I think, or maybe Discord. I don't know. Anyway.
I will plug that. I'm going to put a bunch of links on the Discord chat, the general chat. I made a Google Earth map that's got some pin drops with pictures, so you can hit the see what the course is like. I've got links to the Big Bend Open Road Race course notes and rules and all that stuff. So one-stop shop. Join the Racers HQ Discord and learn all about it.
No, thanks. Yeah, thanks for that shout out, Dave. And I'll copy and paste that into the show notes as well. So that is a pretty cool map you put out there. I'm going to say the following: thunder up. Pat, do you have anything to follow with there?
Go Maps.
Go Maps. There you go. All right, Dave. Anything else?
Go Stars and
Go Stars.
Good night, Eric.
Hey, good night. Oh, I like that. Good night, Eric. All right, we'll see y'all on the track. All right, bye, guys.
Cheers.